Why is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Yep. I like it just being super simple, and then eventually being able to add a page for merch.
Yeah. Oh, we need a merch page.
I know. I want to get that set up too for both. I was trying to see if I want to find out if we can put both brands under one, so we don't have like a double setup.
Right.
Which I think we can, because I think if we just say they're both, it's
House
just
of
two
Flash.
different versions. House of Flash.
HAUS, of course.
Of course. Couture, of course. Detroit, Philadelphia, London, Milan.
Yeah.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
Because there was a magazine I saw on the stand once and was like, I should buy this, didn't, and have forever regretted it. And it was basically a classical music magazine, but written up in the style of sort of a Rolling Stone or National Enquirer, even, of like, this person has died in a mental institution. This person has a secret wife and 3 kids. And it was like, now I want to read about Beethoven.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, all about the Listomania.
Yeah.
My birthday twin.
That's true. Well, yes, that's one of those movies I've always wanted to watch and have not been able to find every time I'm like in the mood.
One?
Listomania.
There's actually a movie of it?
Yeah, Ken Russell with Roger Daltrey.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I had no idea.
And Rick Wakeman, I believe, is in it. I know he did the score, which why you don't just use Nothing But Franz Liszt, another story for another day.
Question. Perhaps we can talk to someone about that on the show.
Right. No, I think
for my birthday episode.
Yeah, and I feel like there's probably capes involved. But I don't know if that's a Rick Wakeman thing or if that's a Franz Liszt thing.
Wait, what are we going to put on our rider for this show?
Oh my God, it's going to be insane.
Because we've already got the robes.
Right. Does capes make us seem like we're in some sort of weird cult?
Well, yeah, because are they cloaks or are they capes?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I don't know. Capes could be cool.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we have to get a bus. We have to have a tour bus that has to be on the list.
Right.
Flash on the side. And I don't know. Randy looks ready to murder me. She needs a cloak.
If we got you a cloak, would it make things better?
Luke would like to know if he bought you a cloak, if you would feel better.
Let's just do this and then...
Yes. Okay, let's work it out. Yeah, because then Randy's leaving for 5 days.
Oh, my... Where's she going?
Colorado.
That's Cape weather right there. That's what
that is. Cape weather. Your cape would be useful in Colorado. She would ski in it.
Mm-hmm.
She could like ski.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
So now I'm trying to... What is the name of your podcast again?
The Voiceover Coffee Shop.
That's right. And you just started this, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Okay. I launched 3 days ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, fresh. Really fresh.
So how's it going?
It's going well. The thing about the voiceover community is it's a very tight community. Mm-hmm. So once you begin working and past the beginning stages, there's generally somebody who it's very giving. So there's always an instance where somebody kind of picks you up under their wing and guides you through it. And it's like, no, don't do this. This is BS. Go do that. And so because everybody has that giving back mentality because they've been given to, it's just become this very warm and welcoming community. So when I went out and said, hey, I'm getting voiceover artists together and I want to start a podcast, but Not like the general voiceover interviews where I can Google their name and I see the same 10 questions being asked over and over. I
Hmm.
wanna sit and have that coffee shop dialogue with people. People are like, "Yeah, no, that that's a great idea." And so when I started, actually putting it out, then it got a lot of really good feedback, and people were very, very honest about it, but they were very, very, very kind with it as well as they embraced it, and so it's been wonderful.
That's excellent. Now, are you when you say the voiceover community, is that just in Atlanta, or is that including is it sort of a
No.
nationwide?
It's definitely a nationwide, I mean, everybody has their little, like, pockets in it. So, like, the Atlanta community does bind together, but, I'm within the Atlanta community, but I'm also within the LA community and the Dallas community, because there's this wonderful thing called the internet and LinkedIn and Facebook groups and things of that nature, and especially during the pandemic, where there are no longer these conventions going on where you would kinda, like, bump elbows with people and be like, "Oh, hey, like, I read your blog, like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah," and you network that way. Um, Zoom conferences and Zoom meetings and, like, these, online interactions have been blowing up, even
Mhm.
more so, than they were. So, I'm able to say, "Hey, there's this guy who I used to watch a lot, like, in cartoons and stuff, because I was always one of those kids who was like, "Oh, wait, I know that voice, that's what's his face?" So, it's one of
Mhm.
those things where I'm like, "Well, now I'm in it." So, I can be like, "Hey, do you have 15 minutes, and do you wanna grab a cup of coffee? Let me check my schedule." Yeah, sure." So, like, it's very nationwide.
So with that in mind, and as you said, with the community being so close knit, how did you choose who your first coffee date would be without ticking everybody off?
Um well, the podcast is, strategic, but it's not chronological. So going back to the pandemic side of things, the way the podcast started was I was reaching out to people and being like, "Hey, do you wanna grab coffee?" And I was, meeting people who were coaches of mine, friends of mine, and then I started meeting people, like I said, that I never thought I would be able to sit and have coffee with. And I was gaining so much information and just through these little coffee sessions, because there are always these little nooks and crannies of voiceover work. There's the commercial side of it where you're doing like the stuff you hear on the radio and TV. There's e-learning where there's like e-learning modules and like the stuff when you go into a new job or the ones that remind you to wash your hands, audio books, anything with a voice, there's the little niche community. So, but everybody does a little bit of everything. So you'll have like your focus, like some people, like myself, will focus in animation, or you'll have people that will focus in audiobooks because that's what they love doing, or that's what their voice fits well. And so that's where they've kind of found their home. But because it's a business to business, um, in order to make your money, you kind of got to go, okay, well, what jobs do I want to take? But I'm going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. So, I was like, "Hey, I'm not super familiar with e-learning." So I got an e-learning person and I started talking about e-learning, and I was just learning so much. So I was like, "I have to do my part and try to give this back, just like everybody has given so much to me." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make like a little intro episode." And then I started recording podcast episodes. I was like, "Okay, um, Paul Strickwerda." Paul Strickwerda is very mindset oriented. He's very, what is his inspiration for doing it? What is the right reasons for doing it? What are he's an international voiceover artist. He's done IHOP commercials, he's done Discovery Channel stuff, he's done Priceline commercials, he's done e-learning work, he's done a little bit of everything. So I was like, even though he wasn't the first person that I interviewed, I want him to be the first person when somebody's listening to the podcast to get the mindset before you start getting the structure.
Now, the show is new, but you've been doing this for a while. How long have you been doing this?
About 3 years.
Okay. And is there anything we would have heard you on? Are you the guy
Um,
saying, "We appreciate your call"? What's your
yes, actually.
Okay,
For
great.
so when the pandemic happened for, when people were calling into the SBA, the Small Business Association, I was the, "Hello, and thank you for calling the SBA Disaster Assistance Customer Service Center." Like, I was that guy.
Oh, look at
Um
Ooh,
you.
that's both probably that's an amazing gig, but also you probably like, a lot of people probably hate you for being on hold too.
Right.
It's like 2 sides of the coin on that one.
Right.
And you
I
said you do a
was
lot of animation as well?
Mhm. I was the, main character of a video game that is coming out called Project Boost. It's coming out on Steam and Xbox in the summer of this year.
Awesome.
I had a very, very, very small piece in Fallout 4, as one of the ghouls.
Sounds
I am in an animated series called The Unknown Adventure, which will be on Amazon Prime in fall of this year.
sweet.
And then there's a bunch of stuff that I've signed NDAs that I'm not allowed to talk about. So
Of course,
Next
yes.
conversation.
right.
So what's the difference between video game and sort of traditional scripted work? Are you making just sounds and noises or saying phrases kind of completely removed from a script, or is it very heavily scripted?
Um, so they don't I don't even call it a script. Video games give you a book. Uh, because they do have the major storylines, and that gives me a little more play area. So I'm allowed to go in and, like, I'm allowed to actually act out the scene. I generally don't have directed sessions with video games where, other actors are involved. It's usually just me and the director or the producer. So, we just go back and forth, and, I kinda play around with him for a little bit, and we get what he wants. But with a video game, there are so many choices, and so there needs to be a voice for no matter what choice that they make. And then there's, like, 4 pages of just noises where you're like, "Okay, now you're getting stabbed. Ugh. Okay, you're getting shot. Ah!" You're jumping. Huh. Like, things like that.
Hmm. Do you ever get the note where they're like, you're jumping and stabbing are too close together? Can you give me some space between those and make one sound harder than the other?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that I've gotten that feedback, but we'll have sessions where it's nothing but reaction noises. And so it'll be probably about 10 minutes worth of audio of just reaction noises, just so that they have those little pieces where they can pick and choose, where if some of them sound similar, then you have a little bit of, um, versatility.
Do you have any ability to kind of improv and work on the character in a video game, or is it such a completely
Mhm.
different world where you don't
Oh,
do
yeah.
any of character work?
Well, I would associate video game work with character work. Um, because even if it's a video game, like say they were making a new Batman game and they decided they wanted me to come in as the new Joker. There's the Mark Hamill Joker, there's the there's all these different people that have been the Joker, but each person has done it differently. I can put on a voice and I can put on a show, but there will always be a piece of me that I kinda give to that character in order to give it life.
Mhm.
So, in addition to getting that character, they're also getting me. So I have to craft, okay, what would I do in this situation as this character? What are his motives? Why is he doing what he's doing? He's not evil just to be evil. He's either scared or he's angry at how society's treating him, or like he believes that he's right. So
Mhm.
in that moment, as that character, I believe that I'm right, but I'm still me. If that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's still acting. It's still
Right.
a choice is being made for that voice and that
Right.
particular reaction.
And when things are being written out, there is a lot of improv going into it. Could the writers will write we'll write everything out, but we'll be like, all right, we're gonna do the takes that the writers did, and then every once in a while they'll be like, now that we're actually hearing it, let's play around with it a little bit. So there'll be a couple of lines where they'll be like, okay, this person is walking into the door, and he sees like this big room with like a bunch of, I guess, the antagonist characters. So they'll say, hey, like give us like a wow guess. Like you're like, whoa. But then like they'll be like, okay, now imagine you're walking into that room. What would you say? What are these guys doing here? All right, another one. Man, I never knew this existed. Like you'll play around with it and see, as long as it
Mhm.
fits within the main story they're going for, a lot of lines do get improv. Because that's what casting directors look for. They want you to be
Mhm.
able to play a little bit. They don't want you to come in and read some lines and leave. That doesn't give life to it.
Mhm.
I feel
That's
like
very
that's
true.
something where your craft is really underrated. I don't think people understand that. I think people think you just come in and read.
Right, which is part of why I started the podcast, is I wanted to. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, because people consume media all day, but, I mean, there are behind the scenes videos and whatnot, but those are only a percentage of those get watched and returned to the main media. So I wanted to kind of, like, instead of being behind the glass, that's why I wanted that coffee shop dialogue setting, where come out from behind the glass, come sit and have coffee with us and know what our world is like. Know how we are know the time and the equipment and the investment and the coaching and everything that goes into it that we utilize in order to breathe life into your media. I mean, it's magic, and I am more than grateful to be able to do this every day. But it's we have this act to put on, and you're not supposed to know it's an act. We're supposed to do it so well that they're willing to pay us to do it because it's believable. But there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and even in being that is just this whole other world. It's phenomenal.
And so your show is designed to sort of give people that, like you said, that, and I hate the phrase, that look behind the curtain of
Right, absolutely.
here's what this is like. Um, so who do you got coming up that's going to be that you're really looking forward to?
I've got Sam Quasman. Sam Quasman has done work for Warner Brothers. He's done work for he was on Robot Chicken. He was have you ever seen Tom and Jerry? The new Tom and Jerry?
Mhm.
You know that little duck that hangs out with Jerry? Little
Mhm.
Quacker? He's Little Quacker. Um,
Nice.
I've got him. I've got Neil Ross, who was in Transformers. He was in G.I. Joe. He was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He was extensive list. Um, I've got Dan Leonard. Dan Leonard owns the voiceover body shop, where he teaches people how to build voiceover booths, and he is just a wonderful gentleman to talk to. I've got Emily Neves, who does a lot of work with Funimation. She was in My Hero Academia. She was in a number of different animated series, and she's wonderful. Um, I'm looking forward to just about every single person that I've put on there, because every person that I've contacted regarding this, it was with a purpose. It was like,
Hmm.
okay, you are you have so much experience in this nuance of the industry, and I want your perspective. I want to see what makes you tick. I want to see how you take your coffee. I want to see how you approach marketing and how you approach this as a business, and also how do you have fun with it? What do you enjoy most? This is the character people know you best as, but what resonated with you the most?
Who is Tiny Quacker?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So along those lines,
Mhm,
when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a Disney voice someday. Like I wanted to be a princess, the whole bit, which
mhm.
was a
Here we
billion
go.
years ago. I know. But I think part of it was because often, even though the characters didn't really look like their voices, just because, as you said, part of that person's spirit sort of is infused into that character.
Mhm.
Who of all of the characters you've portrayed, when you saw what you looked like, did you go, "Oh, yeah, I could totally look like that guy"?
That's a tough one. Back to the Project Boost video game, they actually, designed him after me. So
Nice.
that would probably be, he's, faceless except for his glasses. But, hairstyle, the suit I was wearing when we went into the studio, everything was designed essentially to be me, and I didn't have to. I mean, I played a character, but it was my voice,
But see, that's
which
I think that's awesome.
right, which sometimes voice actors are like, "Wait, natural voice, what does that sound like again?" But I mean, that was a lot of fun because I got to be me, and he was like, "Yeah, no, just what would you do in that situation? Just not what would the character do, what would you do?" And so I was
That's
super able to relate to that. I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm literally was asked to play me. Like, that this is an honor."
that's pretty sweet.
Now, so many of the people we've talked to in the past year in
Mhm.
some form of entertainment or the arts, however you want to classify it, has, I think, like many people, bemoaned the what's that thing? Oh, pandemic.
Mhm.
And I, yeah, I can see you're in the studio. I'm assuming, is that a home studio?
Yes, yes, it is.
Is this the kind of job where, I mean, you said you had to wear a suit. Has the pandemic really changed what you do on a day-to-day basis? Is it just your commute's a little bit quicker?
Yes and no. Um, because a lot of work prior was in my home studio. And when the pandemic hit, like I said, I've been doing this for 3 years, so, I mean, I was only maybe a year and a half in. So, a lot of what I was working because a lot of the first year of voiceover is establishing yourself. And so that's doing, I was working on a lot of audiobook work. I was working on a lot of, e-learning work and, like, little commercials for foreign companies. So, I was still in my marketing phase. I was going into studios occasionally whenever I would book that, "Oh, yeah, no, I got one." But, but a lot of it was home studio work. So, if anything, when the pandemic happened, that broadened my horizons because now these studios in Burbank, California, in, Flower Mound, Texas, and in Canada and New York, these places where they were like, "Oh, well, we kinda only bring in people within the surrounding area because we like to have it in our studio so that way we can make sure everything sounds the same." Uh, that wasn't as much of an option, and even the ones that were, they were running bare bone crews. So now they were able to just patch me in remotely, and I was able to do work for studios in Burbank, for studios in Texas, my international market broadened. Because when the pandemic first hit, a lot of people were still holding close. They were like, "Well, this isn't gonna last super long, so we're just going to send some equipment home to the talent that we already have on a roster, and we're gonna continue recording, and we're gonna wait for this to blow over." And then it didn't blow over. And so they started, "Okay, we need to adapt." So they started bit by bit adapting and, okay, well, now talent agencies who were working in just like this niche part, okay, well, we need to start expanding. So they started expanding outside of their regions. So people like me in there's plenty of work in Atlanta, but, there's not a lot of animation work in Atlanta. So people like me who wanna focus on animation were able to be like, "I can go talk to that studio now. I can go talk to that studio now." And my email marketing and my calling and my pitching myself to these communities was a lot more effective, and I was able to pocket myself into places that otherwise likely might have not been possible without getting on a plane. So,
Hmm.
I mean, the the pandemic's had its ups and downs. A lot of places are still using the same people, and they're just trying to be super safe, but as far as voiceover work, once a couple of months hit, because the show must go on. So creators found ways to create, and more things are getting created, especially when everybody was home for months on end. Animators were just at home creating stuff. Authors were writing books. People were that had run the same commercial for years were rebranding themselves to cater to the pandemic. Media itself changed to cater to the new scenario going on. And with that supply, there was demand for voiceover artists, and it exploded. But in that I've also seen a boost in the amount of people that wanna get into voiceover, which has been phenomenal because there is enough work to go around as long as you're willing to put the work in.
Mhm.
So, all these people who never were, like, working their 9 to 5 jobs that where those companies got shut down, they found out about this little secret world that we live in, and they were like, "Okay, um, I just buy a microphone, I talk into it, and I make money." Some people were went that route, and then they realized it was more of a business and bailed out, and a lot of really nice equipment went on sale. But then a lot of people stayed, and they're working, and they're producing beautiful, beautiful things, and greatness has come from it. So I guess it's had its silver lining.
Find the VoiceOver Coffee Shop wherever you find your podcasts, or you can check out their website, which is vocoffeeshop.com. And if you're looking to hire Andrew to do voiceover for you, his website is voicebard.com.
You can follow us on all the various socials. Our website is whythepodcast.com and has all sorts of additional stories and videos. It's also where you can sign up for our newsletter. We're also on YouTube if you're into that kind of thing. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, because if you don't, we'll call your mother and tell her that she's completely right. You would look so much prettier if you smiled more.
Why the Podcast is part of Mudhouse Media. Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mustonen. The theme song was performed by the Electrosynth-O-Magnetic Polyphonic Orchestra. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?